I think we're right on schedule to introduce Allan McKay, the big Allan McKay. Are you there? Let me make sure you're not muted. Can we hear you?
There we go. Sorry, I was double muted just to make sure.
There you go. Double
muted.
Double muted. That's like two ball games.
It's so beautiful. I can't believe it. Double muted.
What does it mean?
Double muted all the way. Allan, thank you so much for joining us. Very excited to have you here. We have, of course, enjoyed your company several times on CG Garage, and we've done what we call the podcast exchange program, where each of us go onto each other's podcasts and talk about stuff. Your name comes up quite a bit in the industry. People know who you are. You've been an amazing educator and a mentor to many, many people. And people look to you as the person that's going to get them where they want to be and in their careers. And you've done that basically because you were very aggressive at teaching yourself those things at a very young age, and learning things and saying, "This is my goal. From now on, this is what I'm going to do," and skipped a lot of steps that a lot of people did in their education because you knew you wanted to do it yourself. And I commend you for that. You've obviously made a great career for yourself in that area, and that is quite amazing, including the fact that what we're going to talk about, some of the things that we're going to talk about today, is how you managed to take the fact that you didn't necessarily have the education in math, for example, the formal education in math that you needed, and you still managed to do things that people would think you need that education to do. So I'm very excited to have this talk with you, because I think it'll really inspire people to be in terms of the way that they work. So please welcome Allan. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. It's a bit different doing this online, huh? Cool. So how do you want to do this? Do you want me to just rock and roll, or?
Well, Allan, we can do what we're going to do. We and I have been talking about this a little bit. I think what we're going to do is we're going to show a video that you're going to be that's going to be going, and there's no sound to it. So you and I are going to have a discussion on this, because I think we're both used to sort of doing in podcast style, talking about things on the fly. So we're going to talk about this. But tell us a little bit, because you came up to me and you said, "Hey, this is what I want to talk about." And so you and I have been discussing that subject, which I think is really great. So let's go ahead and show the video, and tell us a little bit about what you're going to be talking about.
Yeah, I got to apologize for the resolution. I have the Blu-ray around somewhere, but this is the DVD, which was the only one that I actually had ripped for my reel from about 10 years ago. But basically, for me, I want to talk a bit about scripting and automating, because I think it is, as Chris is saying, like, it's one of those things that I feel most of us say that, well, that's for programmers, I'm not smart enough, or I need to know math, or whatever it is. There's always a lot of resistance around automation. And in terms of Blade specifically, I thought this would be fun eye candy to have in the background, but it also, for me, was one of those moments where when I worked in this movie, we had, I think, 120 vampires we had to kill. So there's a lot of vampires to kill. And I think that the team did a phenomenal job. There's a lot of really great artists on here, like Ben Liu, Mitch Gates, I'm forgetting names all over the place, but a lot of really talented people worked on this. But the way that we did it, even at the time, which was 2004, I felt like we could probably have done it more efficiently. And it was that the way we approached it would be that every element was done by a different artist. So initially you would do the match move of the character, and then you would have someone say, okay, well, we want to have, like, let's say the chest get hit by a bow and arrow or whatever it might be, and so we'll have like a gradient spread out over the body, which will fuel all the particles and everything. And this is pre-fluids. I think there's one or two fluid shots in here, I don't know, maybe, but it was generally just particles for everything. And so the gradient spreading over the body, that would be another person doing the gradient, and they'd approve that. And then once that was done, someone would go and do the smoke, and it was using sprites. and then someone was doing the fire, and someone was doing the sparks. And so we'd have like 9 people working on a single effects shot. And I felt like that you know, it worked. We got the
And
job
everyone
done.
was waiting for the next person, right? That was the problem.
Yeah, it was literally a conveyor belt kind of system where it's like one person does their thing, then it moves to the next person, they do their thing. And I just felt like that process could definitely be automated. I didn't have any real much scripting experience at that point. Basically for me, just as a heads up, and I like saying this because it really lowers the bar. Like anyone who says like, well, I'm not smart enough to script or whatever, I'm a dumbass. I barely went to school in like primary school. I forget what it's called over here, but like in grade 9, so when I was 13, the second week of grade 9, I dropped out of school and I never went back. So I never knew math. I never knew any of this stuff. And so it was completely alien to me. I wanted to learn the stuff, but I didn't know how. We didn't have YouTube. The books were all written, I think, for like by programmers for programmers is the best way to explain it. And the way that I learned, I think, is a way that everyone else can learn too, which is learning as an artist. I've got a course that I run on scripting, like on being a TD, but like I'm mentioning this just because the very first lesson is one I think that will resonate for most people, which is we learn how to model a rock. You go in and you sculpt a realistic rock that looks really cool, but then every step that we do, we then go and repeat it with a script, with code. And the whole point is that a lot of the time we get caught up in the math side when you don't need to know math. You need to look at what you're doing and say, okay, well, how can I repeat that and then get the same result? And the whole point is once you've modeled a rock with code, it's like, well, what if we randomized some of these features? What if we added a slider or two in to control the detail and different things? And suddenly you're seeing the benefits. It's not only can you replicate the thing that took you 30 minutes before in seconds, but now you can give it controls and you can expose a lot more to be able to now create thousands of rocks in seconds and continue to kind of go down that path. So this video is just going to loop through in the background, but like with Blade as an example, like when I had finished on Blade, I ended up going back to Australia for a quick vacation, and I was on my laptop, just kind of toying around with it, and like that was one thing that I managed to kind of put together was a very simple replication of what we had done, where it's literally a tool, and you're now able to click on the character, click where on the body you want the effect to start, choose how quickly it grows or doesn't, and preview it in real time. And when you're happy with that, that's when you can hit apply effects, and then you see all the effects being applied. The whole point is, and I think that this is the other flip side, is that you want to eliminate a lot of redundant things that you're doing over and over, but then you also want to not restrict the artist from actually being able to do what they want to do. You could automate everything where it's one click, but then you're missing out on them actually doing anything throughout the whole process. So I think it's more a matter of figuring out like, well, what are the things that I'm doing and what can I speed up? What can I automate? If you start looking at what you're doing day to day, that's where that comes into play. So one thing I ought to say is that I think most people, when you look at Maya or Max, for instance, you don't realize that like every single button is actually a script. That's all it's doing is you press the button, it's running a script in the background that creates the box or applies your rig to the character. Whatever you're doing, typically it's a script or it's talking to a plugin, but it's doing that through a script. So if you look at Max, Maya, Houdini, whatever it is, and you look at who they're designed for everyone. Like you look at ZBrush, that can be used for sculpting characters, or it can be used to model jewelry. Like that's typically what it's used for. It's used for so much different stuff. So the tools need to accommodate everybody, and they need to be very generalized. And that's cool, but at the same way, it's kind of limiting because of that, you're not able to get really specific on what you're doing. And I always think that, like, what if you had a piece of software that was designed specifically for you and for nobody else? Like that would be a game changer, because suddenly, especially if it was on a per project basis, like you're working on, in this case, Transformers, it's like, well, what if there's a button to create the blasting the character effect, or to make it explode into, or the clothes explode into fragments of cloth? Whatever it is that you're doing, and I'll talk about Transformers in a bit, but that sort of philosophy for me kind of really changed things, where it is that what if I could create the software in the image of how I want it to work? If I had buttons to create, my whole lighting setup, or if I didn't have to go and name all my renders over and over again, because as a supervisor, I see people create these really ridiculously named render passes and scene files. And even when we unarchive like a old Transformers or other project that someone else worked on, and we see some of the naming files, and it's like version 3 underscore God, I hope I go home soon, or version 5 underscore final underscore this is the one underscore final 03. You know, it's just the most ridiculous stuff that will happen over and over, and we can all, you know, kind of relate to that. But that's where I think that there's a lot of times where, you know, it's important to have render like scene files, file name files that are descriptive enough that they can be tracked and managed, but it doesn't mean that the artist needs to actually be doing that. You know, a lot of times, like my philosophy is I don't think artists should need to load files or save files. Like I think every morning when I come in to work and I'm really tired and I got to go and review shots, if I had to manually go in and find the shot code and go into there and find the right version and load that up, wait for it to load, like all these different things, little by little, like all that time adds up. And if you look at a lot of senior artists, that's generally what we're doing. We're very expensive, and at the same time, we're doing things that eat up a lot of time that isn't necessary for us to necessarily be doing that. So that for me was always kind of like the big philosophy is like automate a lot of what we do. And especially in the last, I'd say at least 10 years, I never really thought about it, but it's been basically my secret sauce is that I've created tools to pretty much do everything that I do in production. And whenever we're taking on a new job, I'll look at, well, how can I remove myself from the production? In other words,
but it's like a pipeline for one, like, you know what I mean? Like you don't have to have a huge team is what you're saying in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
Right?
It can be either way. So like one thing I was going to say is that in this case, like if I remove myself from it, it's basically that I might look dev 1 or 2 shots, and then we get the look right. The client, the director loves what we're doing. And at that point I can build a tool that does what this does, exposes all the controls for it, and makes it brain dead simple, where I can then give it to a junior or a mid artist who we could have 8 of those people for the same cost of, you know, having a senior. So in a lot of cases, you're able to save a lot of time by not needing there to be a team of seniors. Instead, they could be the ones focusing on the really important stuff, and the other people can be the ones doing all the splashes or whatever it is, knowing that the look and everything has been figured out. Now it's about just rolling it out onto the 100 Marvel shots or whatever that they've been awarded. But you're right. The flip side is that for me, especially, I love working remotely. So when COVID and everything hit, it was just another day for me, unfortunately. But it also meant that with this, I want to be able to free up as much time as I can, because I want to be able to take on as many jobs as I can. And that was a big turning point for me. It was working on 7 feature films from a hotel on my laptop at one point, where my render farm was in LA, and I'm able to work on all this stuff because a majority of the tools that I'm running are able to do most of the work, and then I can review the result, make some tweaks, and let it do its thing again. And I think that a lot of the time that's what our tools are doing. You know, most of the effects we're working with, and you know, all the things that are a slider at this point, it's doing a lot more under the hood. But compared to 20 years ago, we don't need to know as much about what's going on under the hood. So again, it's more about simplifying the process where it needs to be, and it's not so that way we can be removed from the equation. It's to free up time so we can be an artist more, rather than doing the redundant stuff over and over. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, just
what is this piece here you're talking about here?
Yeah, so I thought this would be a good example. I think it's just ended, unfortunately, but that one there, and maybe someone can rewind to the beginning of just the fire clip, anywhere would do. But I thought I'd just bring this up just as again a piece of eye candy, but just something fun where we had to create a lot of fire, and I was the one who had to create all the fire. And the tricky thing about doing something like that, where it involves creating lots.
Unfortunately, they can't rewind. But can we pause it for a second? Can we pause it for a second while Alan talks about it, so we won't talk over this? Hopefully we'll do that.
It's totally fine. So I mean, with the Evil Within stuff, that whole show was tricky just because it required hundreds of trees to be on fire, large, like there's some really wide shots, then there's some not so wide shots. And because of that, it required lots of stuff going on, but you'd also be close up. So the challenges are, if you're wide, it means you got to cover a lot of ground. But then if you're close up in some shots, then there's going to be a lot of detail. And that's the tricky thing with doing fluid simulations, for instance, is the fact that how do you simulate all of that stuff? And so what I wanted to do, knowing that like I didn't have much time, I was like a week or something to work on that show, what I wanted to do is instead is just build a system where I could literally go in and look dev some fire. Like here's a tree, here's the flames growing up the tree, here's it expanding onto one branch, crosses over to another tree, so it grows onto that tree, and then that tree now starts to burn as well. Here's an example of just fire on the ground, but a really large scale flames. There's a few different types. Getting that stuff approved, at that point, we're able to say, okay, you've approved the look overall of these, so you can step away and I'm going to roll this out for the entire thing. And it meant that I could probably spend like a day actually setting everything up where I had to create hundreds and hundreds of fire sims. So what I would do is I would have a paint tool and I would literally just go in across the entire environment, just painting wherever I wanted fire to be. And it didn't mean that everything's on fire at once. It was more controlling where fire can go. So we could create very more organic patterns and everything else. So just having a simple tool meant that I could paint on the trees, I could paint on the ground, specifically avoiding certain characters that weren't going to be on fire, whatever I wanted to do, hit a button and the whole thing sets up all the effects. At that point, I can then have like a growth system, so it kind of grows a little bit over time, and then an activation system, so I can just animate some boxes just kind of moving or growing, expanding over areas, just to say these are the kind of bounding boxes of where I want fire to be. And thanks for that. So it just gave me a lot more control to be able to handle a lot of stuff that 5-10 years ago you probably have 5 or 6 artists and just a lot of managing assets and having to set up render paths and do all the stuff very specifically, and just a lot of hand holding and a lot of late nights. But instead it meant paint all the areas and just animate cubes kind of activating certain things when it's time for them to light on fire or whatever it might be. And when that's all set up, you can see like a particle preview of it, and assuming it looks good, that's when you can run the sims. But at that point you do a level set, which means that it would create like a big grid of the entire environment and then cut it all up into smaller pieces and then fire out all those individual sims. The idea is that for me, it isn't like, look at me, I hit a button and I walk away. It's I actually get to get very specific about what I'm doing, but I also am focusing more on actually doing that rather than doing what I'd usually do, which is copy the sim or create a new one, load up the preset, set up the output paths. Like there's so many steps. If this was a conveyor belt system, it would be 100 steps. And for me to do it alone, it would take me a month, 2 months to do. But instead it meant that all my time is dedicated just to being the artist and actually getting the controls, everything I want. So I thought that would be a good example just because it meant that I was an artist 100% of the time. And all the things that would take up all my time, the things that are the big time suck, they go out the window, including render passes, comping, because again, like if everything's named correctly because it's not done by a human, it means that then the comp can pick it up and assemble the nuke file or fusion file, whatever it might be, and everything will work. So just to jump around a little bit, like one of the big philosophies that I've adopted over the past decade has been that not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, I try to avoid ever working on version 1 of a file. So a good example would be there's a short film called Flight. I also worked on the movie Flight, a bit confusing, but with the short film, it was done by John and Josh Baker. They directed the movie Kin with Michael B. Jordan. They're buddies of mine. We go way back, and they had this short film that this parkour guy doing all these stunts, he had like these shoes that were meant to have all these effects going on. And the idea was that we just get the match moving company to make sure they name the shoes, left shoe and right shoe correctly and everything else. I can look dev 1 or 2 shots, get John and Josh to approve the look. At that point, I just let all the files run, and all the match move files get imported into the shot. It assembles, it mats out all the geometry, the camera tracks come in, everything kind of gets assembled automatically. And it means that at that point, the simulations get applied, all the different effects get applied into separate max files, separate sims, everything fires off to the farm, everything sims, everything goes into the render farm from there as dependencies and starts to render everything out. Everything goes in a comp, everything renders out as QuickTimes with slates, watermarks, everything that's needed, and then we get to review it. The whole point of doing all that is not to show off. It's because then you can sit down, review them all, and you can say, that looks good, got to tweak a few things there. That one broke, I don't know what's going on, I'll have to look at that. And these ones here, I'm going to need to, just dial in the settings a little bit, but we're like 80% there. And again, like you guys knowing from working in production, it's very easy to get to 90% or 99%. So the last 1%, that's going to be the bit that takes the most time. So how quick can you get to that point? So for me, it got to that point of working on multiple shows where when it called for it, I could just let Sims run and let the whole shot get set up automatically where I'm not having to do all that stuff. And it means that instead I get to look at the final render, the comp, then make creative decisions about, what needs a little bit of tweaking, what can I actually send off occasionally on version 1, I can send it off to actually get feedback from the client. And then there's a few that something went wrong and I got to look into that. But it doesn't mean that I'm doing all the hand holding from day one. It means that we can then jump in at that point and actually start doing real work. So it's just little things like that. And at that point, you can actually hand it over to a junior or a mid to be able to jump on it, and they'll know what to do to, if the camera flipped or, something got disconnected, the fluid sim went out of the grid, whatever the issue might be, that's a chance to go in and do all the tech fixes, the troubleshooting for it.
Do we have the last part of the video? I'm not sure if we have the last part of the video. That'd be great to cue that up, because I think you show off some of the way that process of what it could be. But if it's not available, that's okay. We can talk over it. But it was I remember specifically, it was a very, very simple example of what you just said. I was on Stealth, the movie Stealth, which is a great movie. You should totally watch that movie. No, it's not. It was a terrible movie. But there was a lot of canopies that we had to do, right? And the canopies had all this stuff that we had to put in there. So because they shot it obviously without canopies, and we had to add the canopies in CG. And basically it was a matter of tracking. It was just a tracking thing. And then they had all these elements to do all the comping. And they asked the lighting team to do all the rendering, but there was nothing to render. We just had to load it and render it. And it's like, why are we doing this?
Easiest job ever.
Yeah, I was like, why are we doing this? So they basically made a script for the tracking team. Once the track was approved, it went straight to comp because it was just rendering. So yeah, that's correct. That's the right spot. Thank you so much. So Allan, why don't you talk about what's going on here?
And I love the canopies, by the way. So great job on those. And they'll show it in Australia. So yeah, this here I just thought as a quick demo. It's nothing fancy, but again, I just thought it was something we could just have in the background. But as an example, this is where I started actually a fresh shot with nothing in there. And all I'm doing is because if you think of like a bigger production, people are, they've gone and tracked the shots, they've gone and put together the HDRIs, they've got the plates all flattened, and everything's all ready for people to start working on. So there's no reason for me to go in and manually need to find all the stuff. And that's usually what takes up the most time. Is you go in, okay, well, I've got to go and create my file, then load up and find the plate, load that in, get the latest version for it, look up in Shotgun what the frame lengths are. It mightn't seem like, oh, it's not a big deal, but like this stuff takes time. So as an example here, all of that is done automatically. It's just you choose your shot, and then it will go and find, okay, where's the plate, where's the HDRI, where is the assets that are tied to this. So in this case, the LiDAR scan is brought in, as well as a proxy one. All the scene layers automatically set up, and they're consistent across everything. So that way everyone's using the same layering system. Render elements are done automatically. You can see the scene files are automatically done. As an example here, this is where I versioned up one. So I went from version 1 to version 2. It's very simple, but again, little things like this, people will forget, and they'll overwrite their version 1 when they go to render because they saved their file as version 2 and they forgot to actually change their render settings. So again, just little stuff like that. So in this case, the render settings, like everything just automatically gets updated. The render elements get updated. So literally from the first click, the whole scene is ready to render. And in this case, I just dropped in a scene asset. And then you can also see all the materials. Everything is set up. The HDRIs are in the material editor already. IPR is working. But in this case, I think I wasn't paying attention, but like just as an example, I just had a tool which I made, which I click on the model. Actually, yeah, it's loading up now. So I click on a stupid little button and click the thing, and it's just a tool that would generate wires running all over the model just to create like a wire sculpt kind of mesh. So it's just something fun that I just thought looked pretty. But the whole point is that's, again, one click, and I get to choose how many wires, and I can change the thickness of the wires. So I'm not, I guess I am notorious for making really bad looking interfaces rather than trying to make them look pretty. But the whole point is just I can click update, it runs the thing again, and then when I'm happy with it, there it's got like 3,000 of those lines running across it. I can just hit bake, and then the mesh is finalized. And part of that will be that the material automatically applies, so the shaders, everything is set up right away. So that's just an example of me just saying, hey, well, let's add something pretty in, because right off the bat, it's the shot's set up and it's ready to render. The LiDAR's in, everything's matted, render elements are all set up. And the cool thing is that when I submit the render, the comp is also built as well. So either it creates the first one, or if you're working on the next version, then it's updating the older ones and changing the versions out for them. So just as an example there, it's just like dropping in an asset, running the tool. In this case, if it was like, hey, we've got to make all these wire sculpts, in these shots, whatever it might be, that would automatically happen. And then we can just, focus on whatever we need to do for the shot. But it means it takes seconds rather than, 15 minutes or whatever it might be. And then on top of that, the wire sculpting, if you do it manually, God knows how long. But that is just giving me more time, because you think how much that adds up over time, and then you multiply that by the amount of artists working on shots. That's where it really is a huge benefit. But the other thing I'll just quickly add in, this is me attempting to do terrible key light just to the side, the one bit of manual work in the whole thing. But you look at also who can script. I mean, I've known really great character animators who, when they started to learn expressions and a little bit of basic scripting, it allowed them to do so much more with their animation, with their rigs, with what they're doing. It doesn't matter who you are. Again, like if you're using buttons inside of Max or Maya or any program, then you can benefit from making your own buttons, making your own tools. And it's more about just looking at what you're doing every day. If you start to track what you're doing, after a while, be like, oh, I can make a button out of that. But the best part is that after a while, you're able to not only share these tools with everyone else on your team, but also you can start to understand like what their needs are, and you start to support your team as well. And I've found that anyone who is a technical director or who does learn the stuff, especially at like a small to mid-sized studio, so like 30 to 100 people, they're the ones, like if God forbid the studio was to start laying people off, it's always the TDs. It's always like the person who is able to script and automate is usually the last one to get let go, just because they're the one who is able to not only do so much and add something special to the team that no one else is really able to add, but on top of that, they're also supporting the team and the growth and allowing for so much to get done. So it's just a really great way to also position yourself in a team as being that highly irreplaceable person, because you're able to do so much. So I think it's such an important benefit for everyone. But unfortunately, most of us are intimidated by scripting and what to do. And that's where I think that it really comes down to, again, just not looking at the tutorials and stuff that are written by people. Even like anytime I've heard someone say it just requires a bit of high school math, and then I've gone and tried to read their book or their lessons, I'm just completely intimidated by what they're saying. And I think it's just more about thinking about it as an artist and looking at it creatively. About like, if you turn on in Maya, you got like echo all commands in the script listener, or in Max, it's the Max script recorder. That will actually tell you when you click a sphere what the code is actually doing. And then you can, after a while, start looking at the code and being like, well, what if I changed this one thing? And then when you learn how to do a loop, then it's like, well, now I can do that 10 times or 100 times. And after a while, it's just like, well, what else can I do? So those baby steps help you kind of go from being completely intimidated to, okay, now I'm curious. And that's when the fun starts to begin.
Yeah, Alan, that's absolutely correct. I think that's just really great. Appreciate it so much. We're getting close on time, and we have a ton of questions, so I want to hit them up real quick. I do want to know one thing. It's like one thing you mentioned, some people think that doing scripts that do their job takes their job away. And I think some people think about that in a lot of ways. And I have a friend of mine who got a really crappy entry-level job at a bank, where he had to do a bunch of things and he hated it. And he decided to write a program to actually do his own job. And he
Mhm.
did that. And he's like, now I can quit my job because it was a terrible job. And instead he got offered a much better job at the bank to write more scripts. So that's kind of the thing that, I mean, it's like you said, it's an important thing of what's going on. And it's generally a good way for you to think about things. But let's hit up some of these questions right now. From the audience, there's someone asking, is there a plan to offer a term of the tool development course by Allan more than once a year?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe. We're working on that right now because, yeah, I just launched a technical director course, and it's literally what I'm doing full time every week. And so I'm kind of just focused on keeping my head above water, getting the lessons out every week. But once it's done, we'll be looking at like, yeah, what the future will be. Because, yeah, already people are like a week into it, like, let me in. So yeah, just stay tuned, and I'll definitely announce stuff. Like, I do have a free class because I think that's, if you guys want to check it out, just scriptingclass.com, class.com, C-L-A-S. Sorry, I can't even spell. I'm sure you know what I'm saying. But I mean, you know, if you want to do that, that's got like 8 hours of free training. And I think that's kind of a good thing to tie you over for now. And then, you know, I'll announce something publicly down the line in the next few months.
Perfect. Next question is, how much are you scripting directly in Max or Nuke, etc., versus global command line stuff to link things together?
Yeah. Surprisingly, Max, Maya, Nuke, they're all really powerful, and they all run on Python as well. So, I mean, you can take advantage of linking things together with having a better understanding of how to write standalone tools. But honestly, a majority of the time, I'm really blown away by how much I can get done just inside of Max, even with Max script. I started in Mel. I hate Mel, but Python is rock solid and amazing. So yeah, you can do so much without
It
even
also
needing to.
translates to all the different things too, right? So
That's
yeah.
the best part. And on top of that, it's just really clean. Like, it's, if you know MaxScript, they're very similar. So I was able to learn Python because I like MaxScript, and MaxScript is just super clean and simple, but very powerful. And all of these, you know, if you look at what you're doing inside the package, a majority of the time, yeah, you can pretty much replicate that with scripting. Best part is also with Nuke and Fusion there, and Maya as well. They have ASCII based files. So MA files in Maya ASCII. So cool thing is there, you can also just jump right into the file and start having it change things around, which can save you a lot of time because you're not even needing to talk to the program. You're just modifying the file itself.
Modify the file. Yeah, that's great. Someone else asked, how long did it take for Blade to finish rendering the fire effects? That was a long time ago.
The fire wasn't actually a big deal. The smoke was, because we're using sprites, and the studio was adamant about using Mental Ray for everything, even if it was a bad call. And rendering sprites in Mental Ray was, it was like almost a full day for some little stuff that, like, you could be playing Quake at the same time and getting the same result in real time. So yeah, it was way too long than it should have been. But I feel like most of it could have been almost, you know, these days it would definitely be real time.
Right. It's probably because of those transparency problems that ray tracers had at the time.
That and anti-aliasing for no reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now here's a good loaded question for you. Do you think 3ds Max will continue being relevant into the VFX industry in the near future? And what do you think about learning Houdini from 3ds Max artist perspective?
Cool. I get this question every day, pretty much, multiple times a day. It's also, I'll just quickly say, I don't know, how much time do we have, by the way?
Oh, we got a couple minutes. Go ahead.
So I'll quickly just go on a rant, because I was thinking about this a lot recently. Because again, like, this is the number one thing I hear is Max is going to die. I heard it from someone who's in the industry, and I've been hearing that since Lightwave was, you know, I don't know why, but it was always the Lightwave people were always really mean. They're always like in my face saying like, "Oh, Max."
David's here. Don't say anything.
That was a long time ago when I worked for NewTek. Long time.
The thing is,
I'll talk
Lightwave
about
is a great.
I don't want to
Lightwave's a great product. I just don't know why, but it was just always the Lightwave users were the ones who were just way more verbose than anyone else about like how terrible everything
Max
else
is going
was.
to die.
No comment.
And so the thing is, First of all, like I do get the people saying, well, Max is just architecture and games and stuff like that. And my whole philosophy was that if you're Autodesk and you own two products that both do really great at film and all these other areas, you're not going to say, buy our product. They both do the same thing. So naturally, you're going to market one and as the other. But Max is very capable of doing both. So I just want to mention that just because I think a lot of people kind of have that philosophy of, I heard this from so-and-so. And it's actually just, I think a lot of times that Autodesk owns both products, so they can't market it as identical. So they got to be like, okay, well, Maya's the film tool then. Max is still very relevant. I think that these days, depending on what you want to do, it's worth learning every package a little bit. Because first of all, if an employer comes to you and says, well, do you know Houdini? It's better to be able to say, I know a little bit of Houdini and I'm willing to learn more between now and starting if that's what it takes, because I want this job and I know enough to get me started, versus no, I don't. Because one thing means like, okay, we can work with that. The other thing is, okay, well, we'll find someone who does. So I think it's worth learning all tools a little bit. I feel like these days, Maya is one where, for effects, I'm not as big a fan of. I just feel like it hasn't really grown since 2003. And Bifrost is great, but end particles don't count. Max in general, like ILM and a lot of other studios are still having it fairly, used in their pipeline. So I feel like it's growing, it's doing great. I feel like the latest release has gotten a lot better. I use Houdini, I use Max, I use Maya. I use whatever people will pay me to use. If I didn't like Max, I wouldn't use it anymore. I'm not loyal to anyone since they stopped paying for all my beers and stuff, since the credit card budgets have gotten tighter. So yeah, I mean, I think it's got a great future ahead of it. But I'm also kind of curious to see what else is going to come down the line too, because it's kind of been the same programs for the longest time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. I think it's more important that you learn to be an artist than you learn to a specific tool, because I think those are the skills you need to have more specifically.
If I can have 30 seconds to go back to your original statement, because it wasn't a question, but about like, because I had someone the other day, I have a video on YouTube I put out about what a technical director does. And someone came along and said, well, once you've made all the buttons, that's when they'll just fire you, because they don't need you anymore once you've made the buttons. And it's one of those things that I didn't even want to address. It was more like, are you being serious? Because I want them to reflect on their own question. And I'm not saying that about anyone who's commenting here, but what I am saying is that it's understandable to have kind of a bit more of a scarcity mindset around, well, the AI is going to take our jobs and all these other things. But if we look back to what we were doing 20 years ago, you would think that right now, like all the things that have happened, like fluids, oh, well, now I'm never going to be able to use particles ever again. I'm out of a job. Everything is just becoming easier. Even with roto, like that's the areas that will be affected the most are the ones that are at the beginning of the pipeline. So modeling, rigging to an extent, roto, things like that get affected because they're less in the middle of production. But in general, they're always going to need people to operate them. It's going to become easier, meaning you can do more. So yeah, in some cases like camera tracking, roto, the beginning of the pipeline, that stuff gets affected a little bit, but it's not like those jobs go away. It just means that the jobs allow you to do more in less time.
Yeah, and there's going to be, because we can do more, they're going to ask for more. So we're just going to be doing more. So I think there's just a lot to do. So which is very exciting. Well, thank you, Allan, so much for this. Absolutely fantastic. I think it's really good. I think especially to let people know, don't be intimidated by scripting. If Allan can do it, anyone can do it. I'm just kidding. But
no, that's true.
but it is an important thing, and it's something that's actually a tool in your feather, in your cap, and something that you should take advantage of to do. And you will be happy for it in the long run. Before we move on to the next speaker, I do want to remind people that we have that challenge of putting yourself in a selfie watching us right now. So remember to take that photo, share yourself in a selfie. Remember to hashtag it with hashtag the number 2424 hours of chaos, 24 hours of chaos. And once you take that picture, oh, look, Allan's doing it himself. He's gonna win the big prize.
That's right.
Hashtag or it didn't happen.
And remember to put it up on Instagram, Twitter, or I'm forgetting what is it, Facebook? Facebook, I think.
Yes.
Right? Yes, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and once you hashtag that, we will at the end of the show be announcing the winner who is going to win a swag bag, right? A bag of swag, bag of
Nice.
swag,
A swaggy
All right.
bag.
swaggy bag. Check out my swaggy bags. All right, the Lon does not like that joke, but I'm good.
Not
But
looking. Not looking.
All right. Otherwise, but thank you so much, Alan. This is great. I'm excited to hear more about the guys from Exceptional Mind. David, take it away.
Hello. What
Hi.
a nice note to segue over to me from, Chris. I have to say this is good. First off, one of my favorite things about 24 Hours of Chaos is the community aspect, and I love seeing all these diverse industries, but diverse cultures and like people from around the globe. And it's an amazing community to watch. And it's diverse, it's inclusive. And I'm very, very fortunate that today on our show, we did talk to Exceptional Minds. And I have with me right now, the VFX supervisor from Exceptional Minds, David, I'm going to mispronounce it. Wolgemuth.
Wolgemuth. Yep, you got
Wolgemuth.
it. Yeah.
I know. I even make reference to it in our pre-recorded interview.
Yeah.
Some years ago, I was attending a conference, and there was this part of the presentation of the keynote was a video about Exceptional Minds, and it hit me at a very personal level. So I was very excited that I got to sit down with you and Isaiah Strum, a VFX artist at Exceptional Minds. So after this pre-recorded interview that I did with him, I was able to sit down with both of them just late last week. David, hopefully you'll be on hand to answer any questions the audience may have about this amazing organization. So first we'll introduce you to Exceptional Minds. Roll that footage.
Nobody ever asks a kid with autism, what is it you really like to do?
It's gonna go.
At this school, we ask,
it's so good.
what is your
Just
goal?
a sec.
What is your dream?
It's worth it. Here it
And we
goes.
couldn't ask for a better team member. Everyone needs a little bit of help. And I have a studio full of artists. They're storytellers, they're dreamers. Does it take a little hand-holding? Yes. Does it take a commitment that we will not stop until this succeeds? Yes. But that's how we make movies.
I used to work as a stock clerk who would just go through the aisles and organize things.
People are saying, you're autistic, you can't work here. It's like, no, this place shows me I can.
Even though I have autism, you can still follow your dream no matter how hard life gets. And that's how I'm going to get through this.
So there was that. And then we have a pre-recorded interview where I get to sit down, where I did sit down with these fine gentlemen. And it's going to play also. And it's an engaging interview. It's NPR level quality.
Hi guys, thank you so much for joining us at 24 Hours of Chaos. I'm sitting with two amazing people from Exceptional Minds. It's Isaiah Strum and David. You're gonna have to help me with this one.
Wolgemuth.
Wolgemuth?
Yes.
Oh, Wolgemuth. That is a great. If I was playing Dungeons and Dragons still, I would have a character named Wolgemuth.
Yeah, it sounds like a Harry Potter villain. In a way.
Yeah. No, I think I would be probably chaotic neutral if I were to play Wolgemuth as a character. Anyway, this is not about Dungeons and Dragons. This is about Exceptional Minds. Thank you both for joining us. And let's just get to it. Let's hear a little bit more about Exceptional Minds. Isaiah, could you tell me how long have you been with Exceptional Minds?
Well, I've been with Exceptional Minds for almost 6 years. I started as a summer class student, so that was just me testing the waters with it, and then I officially joined the school, and then I went through all 3 years, and I discovered my love for visual effects. Whereas I originally came here because I liked animation, But I found out that I'm good at and like to do visual effects. And then once I graduated, I went to the studio, and then almost immediately, Exceptional Minds helped me get a job at Fox doing motion capture. And then from there, I went to Sony, and then between those, I came back here, and then now I'm working here full time.
That's great. And David, what brought you to Exceptional Minds?
Oh, I have a connection to Exceptional Minds from way back in the industry. I was working with a supervisor who his son was part of Exceptional Minds, and through the different years of connecting and working on the same shows, I just saw the availability came up, and I put my name in the hat, and sure enough, I came on board and been happy since I came on. So.
And how long have you been with?
I've been here for about 6 months now. It's just after the whole COVID switcheroo stuff that happened. I came on board, and I've been leading the team here.
Is most of Exceptional Minds online? Is there in-person stuff going on and virtual at the moment, or is there always kind of a mix?
It's right now. It's a mix. They did the summer sessions online. All of our artists, as far as the studio wise, we are in person. We are working in the studio and just plugging away at the different TV shows that we're working on right now currently.
And I know you can't tell me about a lot of these things that you're working on, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, they're not out yet, so we can't mention too much. So
that's okay. After we stop recording, I'm going to see if I can get it out of you, but I know I'm not going to be able to. Isaiah, what do you like most about working in visual effects?
Well, I really enjoy that it's like kind of a logical process to an artistic talent. So I get to be artistic, and it goes with my way of thinking. Like being on the autism spectrum, me personally, I think very rationally and logically. And so visual effects is all about like a definite with a little bit of artistic. So it's enjoyable. And I also get to see my works in big movies, so that helps.
Yeah, that must be really rewarding. What was the first movie that you saw that you had a credit in?
I think the first one that I had an actual credit in, or my name was in the credits, was Captain Marvel. So,
really?
Yeah.
That's a good one. How did you feel? That's kind of exciting.
I was ecstatic. I was like, oh my God, I actually have my name in credits. I didn't at the time. I didn't have a huge. I mean, outwardly, I didn't have a huge reaction because I was just so stunned that I was able to even work on it. So it was great.
Yeah, I can only imagine. What about you, David? What got you interested?
What got me interested was it wasn't so much a movie; it was more about the making of. And it was way back when I was 8 years old, sitting on my grandmother's floor, was watching the making of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and John Knoll was on screen talking about how they did the roller coaster scene, and how he was going taking a ride at Disney World or Land, and did all that stuff, and it just captured my imagination, and I was like, wow, this is something I really wanted to do. And then when I saw Jurassic Park, I knew I wanted to get into the 3D side of things, and so that's really how I got my start. Like really young, I just knew I wanted to work in the film and go from there.
I can only imagine how many people started because of a John Knoll presentation or association. I have to say though, that tearing the reaching in and getting the heart thing in Temple of Doom, like that for me at the time was not a positive experience. That scared me quite a bit. That was very dark. That was a dark part of the film.
It was but I don't know, things about that. I was always an Indiana Jones fan, and then seeing that, and then seeing how it was made was just phenomenal. So,
I think it's like the 40th anniversary of Raiders Lost Ark. I'm sorry, what did I say?
Yeah, no, I think that's this Friday or something like that. But for me, I enjoy horror movies, so being able to see the mix of the visual effects with the practical effects, that's enjoyable. So.
Well, I can't do the horror movies anymore. Actually, the first movie that really scarred me was Alien. The first time I saw Alien. Aliens was fun. Alien scared me. I was a little too young probably to see that movie in the theater, but somehow I talked people to letting me go. But that's good. You like horror movies. You're a braver man than I am. Isaiah, can you tell me a little bit about some of your favorite projects and what you did on them?
So, one of my favorite projects was, I believe it's a Netflix movie. It's called Max and Molly. It was something very simple. It was just moving street signs so that you couldn't identify where exactly it was. But it was a challenge because it was anamorphic, meaning that it was pretty much double the size, and my work I had never worked on an anamorphic show before that, so just being able to work on super high quality stuff and then doing little nitpicky work that it got to version 10 that it really clicked with me how detail oriented I needed to be with visual effects. So that I think that was probably the shot that just got me hooked on what I needed to do, and just being a visual effects artist and having that be a gratifying thing.
And what about you, David?
For me, I'm sorry, say the question again.
Just some of your favorite projects that you worked on?
Favorite projects. For me, the favorite project aspect wasn't more about the film; it was more about the atmosphere of where I was at. So I have two places that I that was just really fun, atmospheric. So over at Marvel, I was a part of the in-house team on two films, which was Guardians of the Galaxy and Ragnarok, the latest of the Thor movies. And it was a lot of fun. We had a good time. We got to work side by side with the VFX supervisor on the show, and we were able to just kind of really bounce things off of each other and kind of be really creative. And it was just a fun time. And working over at Bad Robot with the Star Wars, Star Trek, and Mission Impossible franchise was a lot of fun as well. Same type of crew, same type of atmosphere, just a lot of fun working with really cool directors like Brad Bird and J.J. Abrams and all. So.
Talk about two fun movies to work on, Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor Ragnarok. and talk about two amazing directors as well.
Yep.
Have you seen the new Suicide Squad?
I have.
Film that James Gunn did?
I have. I liked it a lot.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
That looks like it's got a little some dark parts to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what sort of projects are you looking forward to that you'd like to work on in the future? I will start with Isaiah again.
So I'd really like to work on some more Star Wars stuff. I did a couple of shots for the 8 Star Wars. Star Wars. They all blend together with the story, and but that was a lot of fun to work on, and being able to tell people I worked on a Star Wars movie is pretty fantastic. So I would love to watch more and I would love to work more Star Wars stuff.
Yeah. Are you? What if they came to you with Star Trek though? Would you be disappointed? Would you be like, I'd rather do Star Wars?
No, I like Star Trek too. It's a different. I get a different enjoyment from either.
Yeah. I understand. And how about you, David?
For me, I would say I'm more interested in the technology aspect of what's going on in the industry right now. So I'm really looking forward to learning more of using Unreal Engine to get into the real-time filmmaking aspect of the industry. So doing the volume stage setups, I really want to get Exceptional Minds into that realm, because that's the wave of the future, and that's where I really want to kind of focus in on and try to bring that technology and EM together and really kind of get us working together and getting us involved in that part of the industry. I think it's a crucial part that's going on in the industry. It's a very cool movement. What they're doing on the Mandalorian series is phenomenal. So I really think that they have proven that the technology, and I think it's something that we really want to go towards here.
So you're really interested in the tech side of things.
Yeah.
I always love, one of the things I love, and I'm sure, I don't know if you agree with me or not, Isaiah, is just the mixture of artistry and technology is always so fascinating, and it's always so changing though. So you always have to, what you did last year, you're going to do differently next year probably. Yeah. Maybe it'll be easier, but then you also have to unlearn what you did before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's an interesting changing landscape.
Definitely.
So my son is on the spectrum, and he's right at this age now where he is getting into Marvel and Star Wars, and I'm really hoping he gets into Spider-Man personally, because I was a big Spider-Man kid. And I just think it's just so cool and so amazing that, we have this amazing example with Exceptional Minds and the students there and the people that work there, working in such an exciting industry. First, I have to ask, Isaiah, do you have any advice for neurotypical people when it comes to working with autistic people?
Yeah, I have two things. One, be having patience, being able to understand that being on the spectrum can mean that you process things differently, and maybe at a different speed or just in a completely different way. So being able to be patient and explain things, hopefully in a way that individual can understand, because everyone's different. And the other thing is being able to really understand each individual person, being their strong suits. Like, I like paint. Like, I can do paint work and visual effects. One of my coworkers is better at roto than I am. Being able to really cling on to those specialties. It's a great way to help communicate with people on the autism spectrum, as well as work with them.
It really is a spectrum, isn't it? It really is. There's just such a range. Somebody once told me that you meet one person who's autistic and you've met one person who is autistic.
Yeah.
You know, it's just and it's a very diverse group. It's a very diverse. Yeah. What about you, David?
As a supervisor, one of the things that I've been constantly working on and making adjustments with is understanding how each of the artists, just like Isaiah was saying, how each of the artists process information. So I need to kind of like look at the shot and who would be best suited for the shot, and how I can help each one with the shots that I give them, and how I can challenge them, because every artist has like Isaiah was saying, it has like a little specialty. But what I want to do is I want to expand their specialty areas. So I will give them things that they might not be fully comfortable with at first, but I'm there to help them as well. And so it's not just like a supervisorial role. It's kind of like a teacher as well, a mentorship type of relationship with a supervisor and someone that's on the spectrum. And just understanding how to communicate with them. Some of the artists like verbal communication, some like visual communication, and some like it written down so they can read it and process it. So it's just working with the different artists and understanding, getting to know them, and working with each of them in a way that they can process information is very crucial with artists that are on the spectrum.
I imagine you've learned a lot working there.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I'm learning every day, working with all of the artists, and yeah, like, and the work doesn't stop. The learning doesn't stop. It's a continual learning curve when we're working in the industry, just like with technology and working with other artists throughout the different studios I've worked with. Everyone works a different way, and it's just a matter of being a team and coming together and helping each other out. So.
Which is really what we should just be doing with other people anyway, huh?
Yeah.
something we all could get a little reminder of sometimes, huh?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much for sitting down with me, albeit virtually, and talking to me about Exceptional Minds and the work that you do. Is there anything else you'd like to say in closing? Is there anything else you want to add to this?
Just another thing.
Super open-ended, I know.
Even if you know someone's on the autism spectrum, you don't have to. You just treat them like a person. It's autism doesn't make you not a person. It makes you a person that learns differently or understands things differently. But so does being another person. So just again, be patient, and part of that patience is getting to know them. You give them a chance,
and it sounds like you will be rewarded too.
Yeah, you get to find very, very unique people.
That's really great. Thank you. That's a good point. How about you, Mr. David? David,
right, I would say anyone who has any questions that we could help with, especially industry professionals who are interested in having any of our artists come on board, or want to reach out to us about what that would look like and how we could help. To the artists that are out there that are searching for a place to come and learn visual effects, reach out to us. We have a website. We have the summer sessions that you can come to, and we have the full school that you can come to. And we are happy to talk with you and explore what we can do to help. So feel free to reach out to us. We have a great person that you can contact for any needs, and just connect with us, and we're happy to talk to anyone. So
great, yes, and we will during the recording, we will definitely, during the live stream, we'll definitely talk about where they can contact you, the website, and everything. So
yeah,
we're all good. Thank you both so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Hi.
That
Hi,
was
guys. Thank
awesome.
you so much for joining.
And
Thank you, David. Yeah, that was great.
Thank you, David, and thank you, David.
Yeah.
Thank you, David. So good to chat with you.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming on. And if people did want to learn more about it, it's just exceptionalminds.com, isn't it?
It's Exceptional Minds or exceptional-minds.org.
Oh, .org, of course.
.org. Yeah, that makes more sense. But that was a fantastic presentation, David. I was so both Davids. I was so excited to see that. I was, this is something we've all struggled with in terms of people finding the right paths for what they do. Isaiah is such an amazing person in that interview, being so honest with his disabilities and taking advantage of the things he did, and seeing it's like, I loved doing visual effects because it's a process that I like, and just enough art to keep me excited. And it was, and I think we can understand that a little bit, and it was quite beautiful to hear and see. Like those finds, people like Isaiah would never be found without places like Exceptional Mind, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. And like, it just gives a place for artists to come and explore the opportunities that we have and to dive in. They get to work on some really fun, creative projects, and they build their skills up. And our goal is to build up their skills to then have them go out in the industry and just like work out in any other studio, and just with everyone else, and just kind of like go through and make a living and do the visual effects that we all love, and love the film. And that's what's special about this. It brings everyone together and just gives a voice. So
Absolutely. I was just kind of amazed by it. Now, here's the thing: is like, you guys are a school and you're supporting, a group of people who sometimes would have a hard time finding a purpose or a job or something that they can do. And I think even Isaiah mentions, like, I didn't, or I saw it in the reels, like, I didn't know what to do in my life, right? Because I can't be employed. And there is definitely jobs that are exciting in visual effects that have positions that can definitely support people with those different abilities. How is it that, the other thing that I like about what we're doing is, like, I'm a visual effects artist, or a lot of people are visual effects artists, and they want to support an industry. They want to do, they may have some money that they can support people. What can people do to support Exceptional Minds and support people that are out there or in that way? So let us know a little bit about that.
Sure. So there's definitely, like, we're a nonprofit organization. So we, operate by taking in, donations from others, and we use that donations to build the classes and you get the equipment, the software, all that stuff. And we form partnerships, and that's one of the big things that we're trying to do more of, is partner with other studios, partner with maybe even other like software vendors and things of that nature to kind of like bring everything in together to just give them a full well-rounded education and build up their skills so they can go out to the other studios and work alongside all the other artists that are out there and experience something amazing. So.
Yeah, well, can you tell us a little bit about the studios that you work with, like some of the places that you guys partner with?
Sure.
Obviously, Marvel has been a big one. I saw Victoria
Yes.
Lanzo on your sizzle reel, so obviously Victoria's involved in some way, right?
Yes. So Marvel has been very good to us. We do a lot of their title and credit titles sequences for a lot of the shows, and we also do some of the visual effects in some of the films as well. We worked alongside ILM on some of the Star Wars projects, as well as working along with Amazon. Trying to remember Netflix, Apple, and all that. I think I just lost my picture.
That's okay. We can still talk. I do a podcast that's mostly audio anyway. And I want to, by the way, I'd love to talk to you more long form on our podcast. I'm actually going to get a bunch of these questions in with you at some other point. But yeah, working with those studios is actually quite interesting. And what you do. I've actually, like you said, these are incredible things that you guys are doing. I've actually been having this thought specifically. I actually have dyslexia, like pretty severe dyslexia. And I've actually noticed a lot of people in the visual effects industry also suffer from dyslexia. And I have a feeling that there's something about our brains, brains who are suffering in different, or not suffering, but are with different spectrums. They tend to do very well in this visual effects industry. And this visual effects industry, tends to make brains that are slightly different do really well. And I'm very excited about the fact that you guys are showcasing that and showcasing the amazing things that these great people can do. And Isaiah is a great example of that. So I love what you guys are doing. Absolutely spectacular. And I can't wait to talk to you for another hour about this subject.
Sure. I'm happy to sit down with you anytime and go through it.
Make sure you turn your lights on though when you record.
Yeah. My lighting got very dramatic all of a sudden because the sunset, and so yes, like I'm very it looked like Charlie Rose a little bit, although that's probably a name I shouldn't be bringing up. But anyway, so thank you so much. This has been great. Thank you, David.
Yeah, thank you,
David.
I mean,
you're welcome,
so
Chris.
David, if people are interested, do you have openings available? Can they register? If they see this and they're excited to find out more, how rare is it?
They should definitely reach out to us because we can give them more information. We do. We're just about to start our next year, and I believe that's going to be mostly virtual. And then we have summer programs that you can sign up for as well. So in between, but reach out to us and we will get you connected with our team, and we can point you into the direction of what's to come and get you more information about it. So, but definitely go to exceptional-minds.org, and you can look us up there.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, Lon, you got something special lined up. Do you want to show us?
Yeah. What is it?
I mean,
pray tell.
There's usually it's not a dance, and it's so dark in the office. I would probably just trip and fall, and it wouldn't be good. We usually put out, in the past, we've put out our reel each SIGGRAPH, but with SIGGRAPH having gone remote and this 24 Hours of Chaos now happening, it's turned out to be the perfect time for us to unveil the new reel.
Yay! That was awesome.
Yeah, very excited to be able to show that.
You know what I hate to say, my favorite shot is the guy who spills coffee on his belly.
It's a good one, right? Yeah.
Because it's happened.
Because it's relatable.
And
it happens to me every day.
And that shot was from Real Time and in the UK, and they presented a making of earlier today.
Yeah, they did.
So that was pretty.
That's
cool.
really nice. Honestly, like, how long has this been going on? We're like hour 9 or 10 or something like that. I don't know, whatever it is. It's been a while, but yeah, it's been great to see a lot of the things that have been on that we've been talking about so far that are on the reel. So including the stuff from Andy and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, great stuff. Great stuff.
Yeah. So I've got to give a shout out to Brian, our editor, who every year he takes a treasure trove of things and finds a way to put everything together in the best way. So we've been going up, back and forth. Of course, Kristen did an amazing job getting permissions and wrangling that, as well as Melissa, who would normally be here, but she's actually in the UK visiting family.
She's asleep.
So she's probably asleep, but we have to give her a shout out on that as well. And we got to unveil some of the new graphics in there too. So Augie had worked on some of the branding pieces, and I actually got to dust off some really old After Effects skills.
Nice job.
Yeah, it didn't feel like riding a bike at first. I'll just say that.
Okay.
But yeah,
it's nice to have fresh new graphics with our new branding, which is something that I think would be something that we should be excited about. Our branding is something that was a big deal that you, Lon, and David, obviously, and Melissa, more specifically, actually, has spent a lot of time with our new branding. And this is sort of like showcasing what this is. And, you and I are wearing the shirts, buddy.
Yeah. Mine's a little
representing.
Faded. I've been wearing it at tennis. So
yes. All right. We are being reminded that we need to announce our special winners.
Yeah,
winner chicken dinner.
Except we're not giving away a chicken dinner.
No, we're not giving away chicken dinner. So who are the winners? I'm trying to scroll back to see they're here somewhere. Okay. Okay. For the license raffle, is that what it is?
Yep.
Yeah, license raffle. The big winner is, hopefully she's still here. If you are in one of our chats, big hooray, I won. Like everyone else is a loser. Whatever you want to put into the chat is great. But Heather Main, you won the raffle. Nice. Congratulations to Heather Main for being the big winner on our raffle, and you win I don't know, one of the prizes as an either
she'll get to choose a license of V-Ray Corona Phoenix.
Yep.
And a ticket to the creative lighting course and a license of the SiNi software.
SiNi software. Congratulations to Heather. Very excited for her. And then for our social media challenge of the you making sure you hashtag
our
yourself.
Selfie
winner is Randy Mills. Is that correct? Did I say that right?
Yes, it is Randy Mills.
Randy Mills, who posted on
Twitter.
the tweets.
His
Thank you, Randy.
strong.
I would love to see that picture. Do we have the picture? It'd be great to see that. Anyway, if we don't have it, that's fine. But thank you, Randy, for winning the challenge and getting that, and you get a bag of swag. So that's very exciting. And we think we have 2 minutes left, right?
Well, can I make one quick request to the community out there?
Yep.
Send us your stuff. Tag us on social media. If you saw the reel and you wish your stuff was in there, please reach out and let us know. Because we are kicking off several other reels now. We're working on a new architecture reel, a new automotive reel, a new product design reel, everything that you can imagine, as well as we're always collecting content. So please let us know. And then I bet Chris is also interested in podcast guests. Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, of course. The podcast, believe it or not, is going to be 7 years old. in November.
Wow.
Yeah. So, going to be closing in on 350 episodes of the podcast. And I've had a blast doing them, and I can't believe I still have that many episodes going. And I can't believe I still have guests, but I would love to have guests. So if you guys have suggestions for guests, or want to be on the podcast, let me know. Email us. labs@chaosgroup.com is the best place to reach us. And we do listen to your suggestions there, and we would love to have you on. Like I said, it's been a lot of years on there, so I really appreciate it. And it is one of my favorite things to do, honestly speaking. And I love talking to people. I think you guys can tell how I did not let Lon or David ask any questions, and I just kept jumping in because I kept having more questions.
Yeah, no, we count on it. Yeah, we count on it.
And I apologize. But anyway, I'm very excited. All right. We have to get going on show 6, guys.
But we have to thank the AV team in Sofia.
I want to thank everyone in Sofia who has been working tirelessly and at this, and
everyone except for Albana. Everyone but Albana. Sorry, Albana. You're not.
We love you.
Don't do that to me. She's one of my favorite people in the world.
I know.
Yes.
She's going to get that.
No. So they're absolutely amazing. Teddy is fantastic. We love you very much for doing all the amazing things you're doing. And you brought a great team together. The AV has been fantastic. Thank you so much, especially in the challenges of can you rewind the video? Wait a minute. And we ask you to do that on the air. And you guys still managed to pull it off. So thank you so much for doing all of that. And you guys are wonderful. So we'd like to pass it on to our show 6, which is Josh and Allan. And they are going to be going on.
We're going down under.
Yeah.
Down under. I shouldn't say that. It sounds terrible.
Sorry,
Blooming
guys.
onions, Foster's beard. No, that's
no.
terrible.
Just cut to show 6.
Sorry, Alwyn. Sorry, Josh.
Sorry, guys. Love you.